Hello wrestling fans, and welcome back to the Duke's Dive. I got a lot of stuff I need to talk to you about, so I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I'm going to get it started right off the bat here. And as I do have 2 weeks of shows and 2 main shows to talk about. So I think we're going to kick this off by talking about GCW Run Ricky Run. First of all, the show started off with a 6-man scramble fuck, including Blake Christian, Treehouse Lee, Cole Raddick, JJ Garrett, Jonathan Wolf, and Kyle the Beast. This was basically a match showcasing some of the young lions in Game Changer Wrestling. Crazy fast action happening all over the ring, and crazy spots going on one after the other. But Blake Christian picks up the win after using one of Will Ospreay's moves, which he has been doing for a while now, taunting Will Ospreay, and Will Ospreay will be at Joey Janela's Spring Break. So, could we see the two of them go one-on-one with each other? Who knows? We move into the next match is Jimmy Lloyd versus Chris Dickinson. In this match, Dickinson focuses heavily on Lloyd's legs and hamstring of Jimmy there. Jimmy does hang with Dickinson most of the match, but with great back and forth action, but was overpowered by Dickinson's focus on his legs as he gets the submission win over Lloyd. We shortly then learn that GCW will be back at the Ace Atlantic City Showboat June 6th. The next one was a really good one, which was Effie versus Tony Deppen. This was a really fun match that started out with a nice point-for-point mat wrestling style. That Effie shows Deppen that he can match his offense and get past the what some believe to be the gatekeeper for Game Changer Wrestling. There was a crazy slap-for-slap spot and a crazy double foot stomp from the last ride powerbomb position from Deppen to Effie. And Deppen does pick up the win after surviving a chokehold from Effie, but Effie went to reposition himself and he didn't get the hold all the way. Deppen rolled him through, picked up the 1, 2, 3. The next match on here was Jordan Oliver versus Joey Janela, another really solid one. This match I felt was a test match for Oliver. Maybe one of these days down the line he will be on the roster for AEW. He's already one of those guys who's already out there with his name on places like MLW. So I could only imagine, he's also at CZW, which, boo, a lot of us deathmatch guys don't like to mention CZW, but hey, he's been killing it over there for a while. I feel like I would not be surprised to see him signed very soon, somewhere with a contract nailed down somewhere. Not only that, but this match was also to prove that he is the standout of his group, Young, Dumb, and Broke. Also, I feel like Janela owns his craft at GCW unlike anywhere else in the world. Of course, Janela Michinoku drivers Oliver through 2 doors that he had wedged in the turnbuckles for a 2 count, but picks up the win after he hit Oliver in the face directly with a super kick after Oliver spit in his face. He said something there, but I couldn't catch what he said on the stream. Joey Janela gets on the mic and he says that, since November he has been having a lot of down thoughts and a lot of depression and his back injury, and he came back to Game Changer Wrestling to find his way. He offers Oliver a match with Will Ospreay at Spring Break if he drops Young, Dumb, and Broke, but this offer is turned down as they are attacked. Marco Stunt makes the way to the ring to save his friend there, and he gets on the microphone and he tells Young, Dumb, and Broke that don't worry about that match with Oliver, you got me and a dinosaur to deal with come Spring Break. It will be the Jurassic Express versus Young, Dumb, and Broke at Joey Janela's Spring Break. That's really cool, man. I can't wait for that one. A clash of two worlds, Game Changer Wrestling and All Elite Wrestling. If you look at the AEW roster, a lot of those guys have been or were at one point in time on Game Changer Wrestling or involved with deathmatch wrestling in some ways. You got Jon Moxley, you got Joey Janela, you got Jimmy Havoc, Darby Allin. There's just a lot of those guys, and a lot of them have been making waves on GCW for a long time before they went over. And GCW just seems to be one of those talent pools that AEW is fishing in, I do believe, if I'm not, speaking out of turn. The next match is Alex Colon versus Takashi Sasaka. I hope I pronounced that right and didn't butcher it. This match was my first time seeing Takashi outside of highlights, and this was a legend versus legend in the making match with a main focus on huge light tube towers in the ring. Clone, one of my all-time favorites, of course, since GCW they said it couldn't be done, and I do dub him the Butcher of the Atlantic City Showboat. Sasuke does get the win after smashing him with a kick inside of a hula hoop of light tube death. We move on to Matthew Justice versus Matt Tremont. Tremont was sporting a heavily bandaged arm from sustaining a huge gash over in Japan. This one did not take long to make its way out to the crowd with a brawl, but when they make it back to the ring, Justice digs at Tremont's open wound with his fork several times, opening it wide open. He then smashes the arm between two steel chairs. Justice gets the win after repeatedly stabbing the Tremont in the head with a fork, hitting a DDT and a huge splash off the top rope. We move on to Schlack versus Danny Havoc. Danny Havoc took the place of Takeda in this match due to injuries Takeda suffered in Japan. This match was insane from the first bell, from the first strike. It was a match of two huge men just trying to murder each other. Schlack in his career has now taken to wrestling these, or making a name, not making a name, but making it a habit of wrestling these legends of the business, as it is, as he now has on his record matches with Nate Hatred and Necro Butcher. It's great to see him mix it up with these legends. Schlack adds Danny to the list though after pile driving him not once onto a light tube bundle but then twice, and the second time the light tube bundle and a gusset plate board, I do believe I seen there. And these guys celebrate in the ring. I have a little heart-to-heart after, and Marcus Crane had come out to join those guys. It was really awesome to see Marcus at the event and looking happy and healthy, and glad to see him there, and I hope he had a great time at the event, man. And I hope it's not long before we see him back at the Showboat mixing it up, man. The next one here we have is Mance Warner versus Alley Cat. This match was Mance's test to Alley to see if she could hang on the roster, see if she belonged with the guys of GCW, and he played a very aggressive side in this one. Alley Cat does staple her underwear to Mance's tongue when he rips them off of her, ripped the gear, and then she stapled it to his tongue. Mance hits a big knee but fails to get a 3 count, and Alley rolls him up with a surprise win after he fails to get the win after the big knee. Then Mance tells her that she belongs. He gets on the mic. They're having a little heart-to-heart moment, and a fan went to run his mouth, and well, he almost got his ass beat. But they do then share a heart-to-heart moment and a beer and a White Claw to end this match. Alley Cat is definitely GCW material. Now we move on into the main event of Run Ricky Run, which was Nick Gage versus RSP. This crowd was very, very hot from just the beginning of this match. You know, this feud that has been building for years, as you know, Nick Gage has been the Game Changer Championship Wrestling champion for like 2 years now, you know, and then a couple of months back, this has really been coming to a head as Ricky Shane Page stole, or in his right, took that belt from Nick Gage, and went and traveled around the world defending this in places that Nick Gage couldn't. You know, even almost going, well, not almost, but even going as far as to dub himself the Robin Hood of Deathmatch Wrestling. You know, he took this belt, that old scrap belt that was, you know, held with much legacy, that was held by Nick Gage for 2 years. Then he even got the belt remade into his likeness, into his something he liked. You know, he has basically taken over this company. So, like I said, the crowd, they want that belt back home, and they were loud and proud about that from the very beginning. But not to be outdone, Nick Gage took Ricky Shane Page's Tournament of Death trophy as well. So he has the, RSP has the title, Nick Gage has the trophy. Crowd seemed like they were ready to riot the whole show. Gage hit RSP with this nasty springboard through a glass pane light tube bundle contraption. Gage ordered Dewey Donovan to give him the pizza cutter, but he was cut off by Ricky Shane Page's goons. They come out and then they take Gage out and powerbomb him Shield style through a makeshift glass pane table, but this only gets our RSP a 2 count. The GC roster then come out to even the odds. Even G-Raver came out, who saves Gage from being submitted to RSP, but RSP takes him out. Light tubes were used and everything, so they took out all G-Raver there, and disputatious. Nick Gage pays homage to Justice Payne with a super drop through a light tube, another light tube table and glass pane thing he had built there. Phew. There's a lot of glass, a lot of blood. There's almost as much glass spilled as there was blood spilled. Well, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Tables turn against GCW and MDK when Eric Ryan turns on the King. They beat him, put him through a double glass pane makeshift table, and then RSP gives him a choke breaker onto light tubes for the win. The crowd has seen enough. They start piling the ring with junk, chairs, and everything else. Very reminiscent of ECW on this one. So, that was a great event. One of the better events I've seen this year, even. GCW Run Ricky Run. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, take mind that these notes are from February the 12th. February the 12th for NXT and AEW. Of course, I think AEW won, or I think actually NXT won my show of the week. So I do believe that I am going to start with them right now. Excuse me a second here. Yep, give me a sec. Yep. So we're going to go ahead and start with NXT from February 12th. This week's episode opens up with Roderick Strong addressing the disrespect Velveteen Dream showed him by having his family on his tights and trunks. He demands an apology, but he is interrupted by a very mad about his last week's event that happened backstage, Bronson Reed. This opens up a match between Bronson Reed versus Roderick Strong. I had to note that the story they seemed to be telling with Bronson Reed reminded me a lot of Bull Dempsey. There was a lot of overpowering offense from Bronson that really made him look good in a match against a former North American champion. Velveteen Dream teases Strong with his entrance long enough for Reed to hit a top rope switch. He then tries to go off the top rope again in the ring, but Strong hit him with a knee on the way down and picks up the win. Velveteen Dream is now on the screen, and he says that Strong tried to take his career, but he will try to take his family and fulfill all of his wife's dreams. We see a really neat promo story begin with the Broserweights getting pulled over and their golf cart impounded, but now they need a way to NXT TakeOver Portland. The next match here is Candice LeRae versus Dakota Kai. This match had a nice back and forth offense early on. Candice does get a bloody nose in the exchange, and we see Candice use Gargano's submission move on Kai. But Kai breaks the submission move and rolls up Candice to pick up a win. Very kind of similar to the Alley Cat match from Run Ricky Run. They continued to fight after the bell was rung, and Kai attacks. Kai attacks LeRae with the ring bell until Tegan Knox comes out to her aid. Now we see Johnny Gargano versus Cameron Grimes. The crowd was very evenly split for this match. This was a very good NXT TakeOver style match right here before our NXT TakeOver Portland. We see Johnny Gargano control most of this match with small comeback spurts from Grimes, who did do a really neat gravity altering collision course. Gargano does lock in his submission move and immediately taps out Gargano after a particularly brutal exchange. Now we see the Broserweights are on a paddle boat in tranquil waters as Riddle gets an idea on how to get to Portland. The next match here is Lio Rush versus Angel Garza. Garza seemed to transcend heel and face in a very Eddie Guerrero kind of manner in this one. This was very quick paced WCW Cruiserweight stuff. There was a great out of the ring spot where Garza hung Lio over the guardrails and kicked him. Lio went for the come up is the come down, a move very similar to something Ace Austin is currently doing with a bottom rope springboard, and Garza fails to lift him up into a wind clipper. Lio Rush rolls him through for the 1, 2, 3, but he couldn't celebrate very long because he was met at the entrance ramp by a very mad, Cruiserweight champion Jordan Devlin, who does congratulate him after that. Next up we have Bianca Belair versus Santana Garrett. This match ends in less than 5 minutes by a very impressive showing from Belair, who picks up the win with her KOD. She gets on the mic and once again says how she feels Ripley is looking past her. Ripley comes out and says she's not looking past her, but at her, and at NXT TakeOver Portland she will go through her. The true brawl, and Belair hits her with a KOD. Next up we see Riddle and Dunn. They figure out how to get to Portland by riding in the boot of Triple H's private jet. The last match on the card was Adam Cole versus Kushida. Early on in this match, commentary makes note that Kushida battled Kyle O'Reilly in a New Japan Best of the Super Juniors match. We see a double Ushigoroshi from Cole. The play up that Cole banged his shoulder up in this match with Kushida, and Kushida locks him into a hoverboard submission lock. Cole breaks out and he gets the win with a last shot after Kushida goes to the springboard well one too many times. Ciampa then comes out and takes out Cole to end the show. Next up we have AEW from February 12th. Of course, Hangman Page and Kenny Omega opened this one up versus the SCU. This match opened up with the Dark Order hijacking the broadcast. They are everywhere and watching this match closely. This match was a great tag team match, but Hangman and Page and his cowboy shit proved to be too much for SCU. The Elite pick up the win with a nasty double V trigger, but Kazarian did grab the rope before the count of 3. So maybe we'll see a rematch of this due to that. He had his hands on that rope before the 3 count came out. The Dark Order comes out, and the Best Friends come out, and then H2 comes out, and then the Young Bucks come out, and basically we have heel versus face every tag team in the tag team tournament that is going to be happening next week. There's a very cool promo interview between Jim Ross and Santana, with Santana giving a little bit of the history and backstory with his father being blind. It was a very, very good promo. And we move on to Sammy Guevara versus Dustin Rhodes. We start this one off by learning that Sammy is a marked man on the list of Darby Allin. A lot of this match teased Dustin versus Jake Hager. Dustin wins with the Canadian Destroyer in the final reckoning. He then gets on the microphone and calls out Hager to have his first match at Revolution. We see a promo from Britt Baker where she says she was doing Yuka Sakazaki a favor because her teeth needed to come out. She says that she was the first woman signed to AEW, and she is the women's division. We now see Nyla Rose versus Rio. We learned that Rio was only 22 and started wrestling at 6 years old. This was a great match and a great way to build the storytelling between these two. We've seen Nyla get a table involved, and Rio runs across the table and hits Nyla with a drop kick. We see Rio actually hit 2 Snapdragons on Nyla in desperation to retain her title. She even utilized Kenny Omega's moveset, but Nyla does win the match after a nasty spear and a Beast Bomb. She becomes the new AEW Women's Champion after delivering a spear. And, well, yeah, I just said that, a nasty Beast Bomb. And, I guess all I got to say about that is, Shaggy 2 Dope said it best. Anybody that's shit talking needs to get walking. We get an Inner Circle promo from Chris Jericho. He says he has hired a bounty hunter named Jeff Cobb to take care of Moxley next week. MJF versus Jungle Boy is the next match. Before the match, Brandy Rhodes explains to the commentary her thoughts and feelings about last week's live lashing of Cody Rhodes. This was a really neat match, and it is very fun to see Jungle Boy work. We see MJF make obscene gestures towards Brandy Rhodes and Wardlow interfering so that MJF could pick up the win with a double cross, and then after that, Wardlow attacks him. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus make this, and Marco Stunt come out to make the save for him. Now, next up, we have Jon Moxley versus Santana. Moxley make his entrance through the crowd here as Jericho watched from the press box. This reminded me very heavily of Big Boss and Revolver Ocelot. Moxley and LAX brawl in the crowd before they make their way to the ring. This was Santana's first singles match in 457 days, and I think it was that's what it said, 457 days. And I personally loved each of them wrestling, each Santana and each member of LAX wrestling singles. They both impressed me. Moxley was on the top rope, and Ortiz sprays alcohol into Moxley's good eye. This leads to him blindly hitting the paradigm shift on Santana for the win, but then after that, the Inner Circle very quickly go on the attack and beat Moxley down, lash him with the world title, and stick Jeff Cobb onto him. So, for me, I would have to say that with the excitement of Nyla Rose becoming AEW Women's Champion, for the week of February 12th, I gotta give my show of the week to AEW. So I guess that means that we're going to open up the week of February 19th with All Elite Wrestling. But first, let me talk to you about NXT TakeOver Portland. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, NXT TakeOver Portland. We see Poppy open up the show. Very good performance from her, but I don't think it was as good as the first time she performed. Keith Lee versus Dominik Dijakovic. This match was everything it was billed as, with two huge men of professional wrestling just making smashed potatoes in that ring. We see an avalanche feast arrive from Dijakovic, a catapult senton off the apron to Lee in a commentary chair from Dijakovic. Then Lee spirit bombed Dijakovic so hard he went to his feet, and we even see an avalanche Spanish fly from Dijakovic. But Lee does retain the title with a big bang catastrophe when Dijakovic fails to lift him up for the Feast Your Eyes after he hurt his knee. We see the next match is Dakota Kai versus Tegan Knox. This is a straight-up street fight from the beginning as Kai ambushed Knox mid-entrance. Knox very early on spears Kai through the barricade in ringside area. Kai even finds herself a cricket bat and smashes it on the ring pole, trying to smash Tegan Knox with it, but she splinters it on the ring pole. The coolest part for me was when Tegan Knox hit a Molly go round. Kai was showing her vicious side as she duct taped Tegan to the ring pole and then kicked her face in. But not to be outdone by that, Knox slams Tegan Knox's knee in between a steel chair, then hit her with a shiny wizard. Kai looked as if her time was over while she was on the table with a steel chair around her neck with Tegan Knox up top, but her saving grace came in the form of Raul Mendez, who helped Knox secure the win. The next one was Johnny Gargano versus Finn Balor. This was Johnny's chance to show Balor that he is the flag bearer of NXT. He had an awesome Carnage-inspired gear on. This match started with a nice sling blade on the outside from Balor. This match was kind of resembled the Carnage versus Punisher, I do believe, right out of the comic books in the form of professional wrestling. Balor leg screw snaps Johnny Gargano and then focuses afterwards on the leg the rest of the match. We see a nice rolling senton off the apron by Gargano, and at this point Gargano and Balor seem to have a pretty similar moveset. We see a crazy spot outside the ring where Balor runs off the announce table, drop kicking Gargano into the guardrails, but Balor picks up the win with an impressive coup de grace and 1916. Move on to Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley. Bianca had a very awesome Black History in the making gear on, and she had a very awesome entrance too. This was a very old school nature match where every move felt big. We see Bianca's strength on display when she picks Ripley off the top rope and press slams her over her head. This was an NXT women's match to add to the history books with the other girls, such as Bayley, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and all those guys that have made their history in NXT. Rhea does win with a riptide off the middle rope as Belair set her up in the corner. After the match, Charlotte attacks Belair and Ripley, challenging Ripley officially at WrestleMania. The next match here we have the Broserweights versus the Undisputed Era for the Tag Team Championship titles. The Broserweights do find their way to NXT TakeOver Portland and make their entrance via golf cart. They are attacked mid Bobby Fish song and the two teams battle on the outside. Riddle was going hard at one point. He was going so hard that he looked kind of like how you would play WWE 2K on the very easiest mode with stamina and finishers on infinite. We see a very nice tandem moonsault from Broserweights, and the two teams matched up way better than I'd ever thought they could have. Dunn actually kicks out of Chasing the Dragon, and they win the titles with an awesome Bro to Sleep. Tommaso Ciampa versus Adam Cole ended this TakeOver Portland. This was Ciampa's last shot at getting back Goldie by any means necessary. He holds control most of the early going on, while Cole gets in some nasty offense in the form of smashing Ciampa's neck off the announcer's table with a suplex, and a nasty wheelbarrow suplex. Ciampa shows off a nasty move of his own with a torture rack bomb, and Ciampa counters the Cole's Super Panama Sunrise into an air raid siren like he had done at War Games. Ciampa slams Cole off the announcer's table, and then through it, he reverses another Panama Sunrise into an air raid siren on the apron this time. And it was at this point in time that Gargano came out, but everybody thought he was going to be helping Ciampa, but turns around and turns his back on longtime friend and longtime partner again. He now turns his back on Ciampa as he had turned his back on him at one point in time. And Adam Cole retains the NXT Championship title. Ladies and gentlemen, that was NXT TakeOver Portland, and I thought that was a great event. Not as good to me as it Run Ricky Run, but definitely impressive from NXT TakeOver. The takeovers always seem to impress me. I love the NXT takeovers. Been watching them for a long time now. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start up here and give you AEW's February 19th show. This week's episode of AEW starts off with their big tag team battle royal. Early on, some of the members of the Dark Order and Evil Uno distract SCU by reminding them that Christopher Daniels is not with them tonight and the Exalted One is close by. This distracts them long enough for the active members of the Dark Order to eliminate them, and then themselves get eliminated by the Young Bucks. In this match, we see Shima be offered a spot in the Dark Order. The Luchasaurus goes one-on-one with the Butcher. Orange Cassidy saves Trent Beretta, but he was taken out by the Bunny with a low blow, allowing the Butcher to eliminate Trent. And we see one of the most nastiest super kicks from the Young Bucks in this one, but it does come down to LAX versus Matt Jackson, who against all odds picks up the win for the Young Bucks in this tag team tournament, and now they are number one contenders for the AEW tag team titles. The next match is Chris Statlander versus Shauna. I didn't know very much about Shauna on this one, but she's now become a favorite of mine after this. In this match, Chris is officially announced as the number one contender to Nyla Rose's title. She showed a very dominant side of herself, while Shayna mainly persevered, but as soon as I noticed how sharp Shayna's teeth looked, she was beaten by a Big Bang Catastrophe. Then we see Nyla come out to say that it is about time that she became number one contender. Waiting made her hungry, and when she is hungry, she breaks bitches. She won't be beaten, and she is the queen bee while everyone else just buzzes around. Chris Statlander now comes out, and Big Swole comes out as well. After some jaw-jacking, Nyla goes back to the back, and so do the rest of the ladies. Next up we have Jon Moxley versus Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb smothers Moxley with very aggressive pace early on. Commentary plays up the fact that Moxley is banged up with a lot of injuries on his plate. And win or lose, Cobb is only out there to take Moxley out. Taz being on commentary really made this one feel special. Moxley merely withstands the onslaught by Cobb due to his injuries, but does get a roll-up win on Cobb as he is attacked but he is attacked after the match by Dustin Rhodes comes out to his savior, And the returning Darby Allin comes out to Moxley's aid from the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle are crashed, chased off after a brief exchange between Moxley and Jericho. Darby borrows Sammy Guevara's cue card little thing to let him know that he has finished come Revolution. Lucha Brothers versus Hangman Page is the next one. Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, Hangman Page opens this match by nearly killing Rey Fenix with a nasty boot. Commentary plays up that there has been some miscommunication errors between Page and Omega, and the Lucha Brothers beat them 2 times in the last 63 days. This was, in my opinion, a New Japan 5-star wrestling 5-star match. We do see more communication errors between Page and Omega, but we see more communication errors between Page and Omega, but they pick up the win with a nasty double V trigger and retain their titles. And we see the main event of the evening, Cody Rhodes in a steel cage against Wardlow. This was Wardlow's first match, and first off, the cage looked incredible, which is huge to see in its debut. First time on AEW TV, the cage was phenomenal. You could not win this match by exiting the cage. This was AEW's cage match rules. Most of the match consisted of Wardlow tossing Cody around, beating him bloody, wedging him between the cage and the ring, tossing Cody around, and he even flipped him so hard that he double flipped in midair, but too much happened picture in picture. That was my only downfall in this one. This incredible match concluded with Cody Rhodes hitting an amazing moonsault off the top of the cage. And we move on to Revolution. Well, next week, the show before Revolution, before we see MJF and Cody Rhodes go at it at Revolution, we will have one more AEW Dynamite. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, to send you home, I got the last of my weekly wrestling report, NXT, February 19th, 2020. This was NXT's first show back after NXT TakeOver Portland. The Undisputed Era come out to open the show, and Cole says that Ciampa lost because of his obsession, and he will never beat him because obsession will never beat destiny. And they say Roderick Strong will face Velveteen Dream tonight. Dream comes through on the Titantron and says that Strong should keep his boys back and make it a night for just the two of them. The first match we see is Lio Rush versus Jordan Devlin. We learn that TakeOver Dublin will take place April 26th. Devlin takes an early aggressive stance as we hear that Shawn Michaels says he is the one to watch out for. Towards the end, we see an amazing back and forth athletic display, move for move, match for match here. Little piece that was awesome. Super athletic mode. But Devlin does retain after he hits a Devlin side when Leo tries to put the exclamation point on by hitting a frog splash. Devlin moves out of the way and hits him with the Devlin side to retain his NXT Cruiserweight title. We learn that NXT TakeOver Tampa will be happening April 4th, and Ripley vs. Flair is official. The next match, or wouldn't very much be a match, is Austin Theory versus Tommaso Ciampa. Ciampa says on the mic that he let his journey to get Goldie back blind him, and says he knows why Gargano turned on him. He then Theory tries to blindside him. He hits him with the microphone. Ciampa hits him with the microphone, continues the promo, and then he kills Theory. And then we learn that next week will be the a real match between these two, Austin Theory and Tommaso Ciampa. The next one we see is the Grizzled Young Veterans versus Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendez. This match plays on just how veteran a tag team the Grizzled Young Veterans are and how long they've been tagging together. It was a quick affair, and the Grizzled Young Veterans win with an awesome double finisher. They say on the mic that America is the land of the neckbeards and the home of the ignorant Yank, and they will be the world's number one. We see the Broserweights have a promo telling us how Riddle got his golf cart impounded, but they are still the tag team champions, but unfortunately Cup, the trophy, partied a little bit too hard. He failed the wellness policy test and he is out for 30 days. They are cut off by Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch for a match. The Broserweights versus Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. This was a non-title match that seriously went a long way in cementing Broserweights as a tag team even further than what we had seen against Undisputed Era. A long-standing match between a long-standing tag team against, it was good to see them in a match with a long-standing team such as Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. It really cemented them as a team. Hope I got that across. But they do get the win after a nice drop kick see Roderick Strong after a nice match. The Broserweights do get the win. Excuse my confusion on my notes there at the end here. After that, we see Roderick Strong tell the Undisputed Era that he will not be needing them with his match with Velveteen Dream later on. Next, we see Keith Lee versus Kona Reeves. Keith Lee came out to talk, but he was interrupted by Kona, who was taken out and beaten with one move by Lee. A nice retain of the NXT North American title. Dijakovic comes out with a what-if scenario, and basically Lee says that he would fight him anytime, but if Regal would approve it, he would give him another shot at the NXT North American title. And it will be one past the rubber match. The next one was Chelsea Green versus Caden Carter. We hear that the Robert Stone brand rebranded after Caden hacked their campaign when she beat Grace 2 weeks back. Belair interrupts this match by calling out Charlotte Flair for putting her hands on her at NXT TakeOver Portland, and Chelsea picks up a surprise win. Next up, we see the main event of the evening, which was Velveteen Dream versus Roderick Strong. Dream was very aggressive, trying to hit Strong with his belt in the beginning. Dream looked very strong in this first match back with a back injury after being taken out for 5 months. Dream super kicked, and then Dream Valley drivered Strong. He then reveals that he has Marina Shafir on the front of his pants, takes out the advancing Undisputed Era who come out, and wins the match with a Dream Valley driver, but he is promptly taken out by the Undisputed Era after the match to end the show. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I gotta give it once again to AEW. With that absolute incredible cage match, I don't think I could give it to anybody else. AEW really blew it out of the water. Might have even been my most favorite AEW of all time so far. And with that being said, they're going to open up this week's show, whatever. And that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's the Duke's Dive. I appreciate you tuning in to hear my recap of the shows I've watched. I hope you join next week. Thank you for listening, rather. And, well, thank you. Goodbye.